Sophie, my turn. Get your books out and open them to section 24.3, page 710. We're talking about cnidarians. Now, let's think of what cnidarians are.
Bro, what did you say? 710?
710. Okay, I know it's the end of the week, but y'all have to pay attention here. Just 30 minutes. Give me 30 minutes, then we're done. Okay. These organisms, up here. Okay. All animals are multicellular. Yesterday we studied sponges. They don't have tissues. They're just a bunch of cells living together. Next thing we develop are tissues. Tissues are those cell layers that I talked about. There were 3 cell layers we studied. Remember them? Ectoderm, mesoderm, and endoderm. Now, the cnidarians have 2 of the tissue layers. They have ectoderm and endoderm. And they all have radial symmetry. So this is the next phylum we're studying. They're called cnidarians. These include jellyfish, corals, and sea anemones. And I like to say the word sea anemone because it rhymes.
Finding Nemo.
Yes. Finding Nemo had sea anemones. Okay. Cnidarians have one body opening. That means there's an open part of their body where food goes into and comes out.
The mouth/anus.
Yes, a mouth and an anus together. They have 2 layers of cell. Okay. The comments, please. Let me do this. If you have a question, raise your hand. No random flying comments. 2 layers of cells, endoderm on the inside and ectoderm on the outside. The outer layer protects the body, that's the ectoderm. The inner layer is for digestion, that's the endoderm. And here we see a couple different body forms. They come in 2 different, what we call body forms. One body form is like the jellyfish has. It's called the Medusa body form. Reminded somebody of the Medusa, the creature with the snakes coming from her head. And here is the opening that I was talking about. And you can see there are 2 cell layers. There's an outer cell layer on the outside, and there's an inner cell layer on the inside. Food comes in through the mouth and into this part. It's called the gastrovascular cavity. It's this open part right here, and the food will be digested in there. And the good parts are absorbed by these cells. And then the bad stuff that can't be digested is let back out the mouth. So the mouth serves as both a mouth and an anus for releasing waste. And that means these things probably have real bad breath.
Oh.
That's always fun. Always get a good laugh. Now, the Medusa form looks like an umbrella and hangs with the tentacles going down. All these organisms have tentacles, and the tentacles have stinging cells on them. Cells that have little stingers I'm going to show you in a minute. They're called cnidocytes. And sometimes the tentacles hang down, that's the Medusa, and sometimes the tentacles point up. That's the polyp form. The polyp form has up-pointing tentacles, and that's what sea anemones and coral have, with up-pointing tentacles. But you can still see there's 2 layers of cells here and a gastrovascular cavity.
Does coral have stingers?
Yes, coral has stingers.
I've been stung by coral
Because
before.
when
Coral-
they're
go ahead.
in the Finding
Yeah,
Nemo,
pretty sure. You got coral.
they get not doors, but they can't go in and they swim out.
You ever seen that
Right.
coral down to the...
Yes, I have.
That stuff really hurts.
Stings, yeah.
No.
Now,
It says, scream
That's-
something.
it'll hurt you. Listen, please. This is what a stinger looks like. These are the stinging cells. and it's basically got a trigger mechanism. If one of the tentacles brushes by you, each tentacle of a jellyfish has thousands of these cells on it. So if one of the tentacle brushes you, you'll hit the trigger, and the top will pop off. You can see the top is popped open there. And this thing shoots out. And you can see it's got little barbs in it that can stick into things. And it's got a line on it that's coiled up. And this thing can shoot out real far. It can go out, you know, I don't know, maybe that far from the tentacle.
But
that's
that's a lot.
real far compared to the size of the cell. And it can stick into a creature, and it usually has poison. And the poison causes paralysis. And so what happens if a fish, a little fish or a little, some little protist or something swims up next to a jellyfish and hits the tentacle, all those things will shoot out, paralyze the fish, and then the fish will be taken into the gastrovascular cavity and digested.
When you say
Now,
How does the
hold on.
fish eat?
When it hits a person, those things stick into you, but you're so big it can't paralyze you. It just hurts. Okay, first up.
So, Finding Nemo was unrealistic when it went through the jellyfish.
Now, Nemo is a type of fish that is immune to the stings. Clownfish are immune to the stings, so it doesn't hurt them.
You just swim through it.
Yeah.
That's why they're saying bouncing on the tops. So if I grab them by the top.
It depends on the jellyfish. Some jellyfish have the stinging cells on their tops too. Some jellyfish have stinging cells here. Others have it just on the tentacles. So it depends on the jellyfish species. I don't know which has what.
When you say they shoot out, you mean they just like pop out? They don't like
Yeah,
shoot.
yeah, they pop out and
Okay, yeah.
they do shoot. They shoot forward because they're pulled in at high pressure.
Oh,
So it's like a jack in the
do
box.
they like,
Do they ever run out of them?
do they like disconnect or they just like?
No, they're connected.
Okay,
They shoot out and then it can pull them back in
That's what I thought it was.
and redo. Yes, Adam.
I hate
Wait, quiet, please. What?
Do you have a video footage or not?
Yeah, I think I might. I might have some video
Can they
footage.
like run out of the stairs if like enough fish touch the tentacles since they like shoot out?
I mean, they can all shoot out, yeah.
So would it run out of
They're
the stairs?
reproducing.
Well, they pull them back
they're
in.
attached.
But they can
Oh.
shoot
It's
them
not like
again.
the arrows. you
Yeah.
Wait,
pull it.
where's the stairs?
It's like an arrow tied to a string.
How does the mouth actually eat something? So it doesn't have like a
What did
jaw or
you say?
anything, right?
Yeah, that's a good question. Listen,
It's a filter feeder.
listen,
Where are these jellyfish from?
Ellen Grace. Stop talking. Whatever it eats has to be small enough to fit into the mouth. It can't chew.
Like a whale.
So if it stings a fish, now this mouth can expand a little bit, but if it stings anything that's bigger than the mouth, it can't eat it.
How does
So
know where
it only wants to eat things smaller than the mouth.
But it doesn't have eyes, so how can it see where to like put its mouth?
It doesn't. It just knows somehow. It doesn't know. It's pre-programmed that anything it stings, it'll bring towards its mouth. It doesn't have a brain where it can think. These things don't have brains. They have what's called a nerve net, which isn't as advanced as a brain. All their movements are pre-programmed. So if they have something in their tentacles, they'll automatically bring that to their mouth. But they can't really think about what it is or see anything because they don't have eyes.
I've always thought like the jellyfish electrocute you. Like,
Nope,
It's an E.
nope. It's stinging. It's these little
That's
poison
Yeah.
in a spear-like thing. Yes.
Well, different types of jellyfish can eat each other or not.
Yes, jellyfish can eat each other. Yes, absolutely. Question?
Oh, honestly, what do jellyfish do for the ecosystem? Like, I know everything does something for the ecosystem, but will we do okay without this?
Well, they
I
have
absolutely hate them.
Maybe. I mean, they're part of the food chain. Other things eat them. So, like birds will eat them. So if you eliminate all the jellyfish, you'd have less birds.
How do they eat them without? How do they eat them
Sounds in your
without?
hair.
No.
They got stingers.
It's like spicy food. It hurts a little bit, but it's good.
Oh, that hurts.
When the jellyfish dies,
Only
so this ability
Yeah.
to sting you. Because like if there's
Oh,
a dead, there's like a dead jellyfish on the beach.
After a while, the stingers don't work. I think.
That's what
Not one
jellyfish
on
said. I thought it was
the
dead.
It's still stomach.
Yeah. I think there's a certain amount of time.
Or they play
Hey,
with
they get shiny.
Okay, moving on.
No.
So many people talking. Please don't do that.
Names.
Here we see again the two cell layers, and then there's a layer in between the two cell layers. See how it says 3 layers? The layer in between the two cell layers is a jelly-like material. It's called mesoglia. It doesn't consist of living cells. It consists of a jelly-like material, mesoglia. So that's why it says 3 layers there. Like I said, it has a nerve net as a nervous system. It's got a bunch of nerves going everywhere like your body has, but it doesn't have any central brain. So it can't do any thinking. It just kind of reacts to things, and everything is pre-programmed. I already talked about the polyp and the medusa form. Now here's an interesting, this is the life cycle of a jellyfish. Jellyfish actually come in separate sexes, male and female. There's the male on the right and the female on the left. Now you can't tell by looking which is male or female. But listen, the males will produce sperm and the females will produce eggs. And they release them into the water. This is called external fertilization. And the eggs will come together with the sperm in the water and form zygotes. The zygote cell then multiplies and forms a free-swimming larva that has a bunch of cilia on it. And that thing will swim through the ocean. Eventually, it'll find a nice rock or something where it can land and stick to it. Often they do this on the bottom of a boat or on the bottom of a dock. And they'll stick to the rock or the boat or the dock, and they'll grow into a polyp form. You see how that's the upside down with the tentacles pointing up? It looks like a sea anemone.
You said it's like polyp?
Polyp. Polyp.
You listen faster.
Now the polyp forms look interesting. After it grows and matures, the polyp will actually take the form of look like a stack of you know those little coffee filters or cupcake holders.
Yeah.
You know how there's one under another and they form the stack? And what happens is the top cupcake holder will float off, turn upside down and become a jellyfish. And then the next one will break off and become a jellyfish. And then the next one will break off and become a jellyfish. So one of these polyp structures can form thousands of jellyfish.
What the heck?
And eventually, some fish will come along and eat this thing. But until then, it can form thousands of jellyfish. And that's the reproductive cycle.
How
Leah,
big is the polyp?
this thing,
Yeah.
not necessarily very big. It depends on the species. Some are as big as my arm, and some are that big, real tiny. Yeah.
What if you were like before it got to the stage of making a thing that looks like a cupcake?
Yes.
It got to the polyp form. What if you were to disconnect that from whatever it was connected to?
It would probably die.
Okay.
Yeah, they were made for swimming around. Some would eat it. Yeah.
Are metal jellyfish?
Actually, no, they're related to jellyfish. They're actually polyp forms, and they're colonies. I got some pictures of some I'll show you in a minute. They're colonies of polyps,
They're so cool.
but they're nidarians. Yeah,
What's like the biggest jellyfish ever seen?
they got some big ones. I'll show you some video footage. I don't know, but I mean, I got video of one that's like that big
Did you
around.
ever be one like as big as a projector screen?
Maybe.
Aren't their
That's
tentacles
scary.
like 20 feet
Yes.
long?
Shows what the polyp is budding.
Aw, look at
Is
how
that-
pretty.
Yeah, the polyp can also bud and form new polyps like this, exact asexual clones of this original, and fall off so it can form separate. They're reproductive machines. They really are.
Do some of them like float on the surface? 'Cause it says like here.
Polyp
Like,
form?
Yeah. Do some of them.
Portuguese man-o-war are polyp colonies that float on the surface.
A polyp has a tube-shaped body with a mouth surrounded by tentacles. A medusa has an umbrella-shaped body called a bell with tentacles that hang down. A ring of flexible tube-like structures called tentacles surrounds the mouth of a cnidarian and are used to capture food. Cnidarians are predators that capture or poison their prey using nematocysts located in stinging cells on the tentacles. In response to touch or chemicals in the environment, nematocysts are discharged very quickly. Polyps reproduce asexually by a process known as budding.
Polyps can always bud off new polyps.
What the fuck you?
So there's three groups. There's three groups. There's the hydroids, three groups of cnidarians. The hydroids, which are hydras, they're polyp form. I'll show you all of these here. The jellyfish, which you know what those are, they're medusa form. And the sea anemones and corals, and those are polyp form too. Now this is a sea anemone. They sit stuck to the bottom of the ocean. They have the stinging tentacles here. Video footage.
Can I use the restroom?
Yes, you're going to miss the video footage. Scary video footage.
The sea anemones were once assumed to be plants. The tentacles may look like fragile petals, but anemones are closely related to corals and jellyfish. They too have deadly stinging cells. Creatures that look like garden blossoms, but seem to mimic the Venus flytrap. Not all who are beckoned, however, fall prey. Like the algae that reside among coral polyps, the clownfish live among the tentacles of sea anemones. This one appears to clean its bodyguard in exchange for protection. A predator that targets the clownfish may end up the hapless victim. Whether they were clustered in bouquets or anchored all alone, the deadly flowers of the sea were early bloomers among the predators. Virtually sightless and essentially immobile, they continue to hold their own along the rocky shores and sandy floors of all the oceans.
They're called class Anthozoa.
Bro, I have a question.
Anthozoa are sea anemones. Hold on. Sea anemones and corals. I'll show you some corals in a minute. Yes, what's your question?
Do the polyps look like that?
Yeah, those are polyps.
Don't we have seeds in here?
Mr. Willis,
Yes.
what's a sea urchin considered? Is that
That's related to a starfish. That's later. That's any kind of
A starfish?
starfish.
I think it's starfish. I'm like, awesome.
This anemone faces more urgent peril.
Watch
A
this.
predatory leather star is moving down the slope. It eats sea anemones. It's a blind confrontation that proceeds in slow motion. Neither animal is aware of the other until they touch. First contact initiates the battle, and the anemone rises to defend itself. Venom is the anemone's first line of defense. It bends down to brush stinging tentacles across the leather star's skin. is persistent, the anemone still has one trip left. The swimming anemone simply releases its grip on the lead and swims away.
Starfish dead.
It can't hurt itself.
Drop that reference. Hey, Pro.
Yes.
Do some hermit crabs pick up an enemy, whatever those are, and put them on their shells?
Yes, they do.
Can anemones sting each other?
They're usually immune to their own stings.
No, like another anemone stings.
I don't think so.
Oh, is that why Finding Nemo, he never got stung when he went through? Yeah.
Now, this is a coral, and corals are organisms. They're like anemones. They're polyp form, and often they're really tiny, but sometimes they can get bigger. But what they do is they build a little shell around themselves. The shell is made of calcium carbonate. I have some right here. And each little, and I'm going to pass this around and you can look at it, but each little coral is inside its own little shell. And inside the shell with it, it's got algae living with it. And so you always find corals in shallow water because the sunlight shines and the algae do photosynthesis and make food and give some of their food to the coral. And then the coral at night come out of their little, reach their tentacles out of their shells and catch stuff floating by during the day. And corals come in all different shapes and such, and I'm going to pass these around. But I want you to notice when you look at each little, there are tiny little holes that used to hold, when this thing was alive, used to hold little polyps. But all the polyps are dead now because this thing's dried up. But this is called brain coral, and it's got the little holes too. And I don't know what that's called, but pass these around while I show you the videos. I got lots of this stuff. All of these are types of coral. We'll start them over here and have them go around. And they'll end up over here, so if you'll just put them down, you're done. Video footage of coral.
The Great Barrier Reef, Australia. At night, I'm surrounded by corals. They do look extraordinarily like plants, branching into fans and twigs and bushes. At night, the similarity is particularly marked. All over their stony surface, tiny buds open into what look like flowers. Don't behave in a flower-like way. They seize and eat any edible particle that drifts by. They are clearly animals. But even so, they look like plants. Why? It was only comparatively recently that we understood the answer in full detail. And it only becomes evident when the sun comes up. For then the corals change their behavior in a radical way. plants must have light. They can't grow if the water is cloudy or the depth so great that the rays of the sun can't reach it. And these resemblances are not just coincidences. If I go back underwater now that it's day and the sun is up, I shall see that many of these corals are feeding in a way that is not like animals at all. A way that is quite different. Now the plant-like form of the coral is even more obvious. The tiny rosettes of growing arms have withdrawn into their stony sockets on the surface of the coral skeleton, but they're still within the reach of sunlight. And within their tiny bodies are microscopic green plants, algae, and they're feeding by making starches and sugars. But the corals are feeding too. They have partly digested the walls of these captive plants, and 80% of the food the algae make leaks out of them and is consumed by the coral. Having dined on meat all night, the corals are now getting their vegetables. The corals provide their internal gardens with the best possible light by growing into these shapes, which is just what bushes do for their food factories, their leaves, when they grow in the same way. The coral algae do get some benefit from this arrangement. These glassy waters are very poor in nitrates and phosphates which algae need. Those substances, however, are in the coral's waste products. So the algae, safe inside these rocky skeletons, can absorb their fertilizer directly and live in waters that otherwise could not support them.
Class is almost over, just wait.
I got 7 minutes.
Just wait.
This black is putting 2.
Here's a Portuguese man o' war. This is a colony of polyps. Basically, that thing floating at the top is one big polyp.
Good Lord.
And all these things hanging down from it are little tiny polyps. Every little dot you see is actually a little tiny polyp. And they live in these long strands. And they have real harsh poison, and you can see it's got a fish right there. And they share the fish throughout the colony.
Aren't their tentacles like 20 feet long?
I actually got stung by one on her shoulder.
Yeah, it'll leave a scar.
Yeah, she had one for 7 years, and she had it surgically removed.
Ooh. There have been divers that are known to get caught up in this because the strands are real long, and the divers can get wrapped up in them, and it kills them.
Oh my gosh. Wait, why is it pink looking?
That's just what color it is.
Why is this
It was in the
so
shade.
It's just, I don't know why it's pink. It just is.
Okay, fine.
Okay. Bennett, what are you doing?
Trying to find this pencil sharp. There it is.
Hey, we still got more to go. We all pay attention here? Hold on. We got class Scyphozoa and Cubozoa. Those are your jellyfish. And here's a jellyfish right here. The jellyfish are medusiform. They always have the tentacles hanging down. There's thousands of different kinds. I got some good video footage of them.
A few jellyfish maintain algal populations as well. These, in a lake on the Pacific island of Palau, pamper theirs in an extraordinary way. This lake is cut off from the sea by ramparts of coral limestone, and there are very few fish here. So these jellyfish can't live, like most of their relations, by catching animal prey, and their tentacles no longer carry stings for hunting. Instead, they have been converted into allotments for algae. The lake is surrounded by a tall forest growing on the limestone wall. The sun doesn't rise above the trees until several hours after dawn. But at last, it's rays strike the water at one end of the lake. And there, several million jellyfish have assembled, awaiting the sunlight. As the sun moves across the sky, so the vast fleet travels slowly towards the other side of the lake, keeping always in the sunshine. So reluctant are the jellyfish to leave the light that on the edge of the shadow they crowd together in a tightly packed show. But without stings, the jellyfish are defenseless. Now, if they blunder into the arms of a sea anemone, they have no way of repelling the tentacles. They're eaten. The daytime voyage across the lake is not the only action the jellyfish take to nurture their algae. Come the evening, they swim down to the bottom. There the water is murky with decaying vegetable matter and sludge. And there, during the night, the algae absorb the fertilizer they need.
Yeah.
I took that picture on Coast Guard Beach. Thousands of jellyfish all along the beach were washed up there.
My sister and I used to try to save them. And we'd pick them all up. And then we'd should throw them in the ocean. And we'd be like,
That's a box jellyfish. That's the most poisonous jellyfish in the world.
Yeah.
Class Cubozoa.
Could it kill you?
One sting from those will kill you.
Yeah.
They're found in Australia.
I went right around my arm.
And there's a hydra, finally. Hey, last thing. Last thing. Class Hydrazoa.
The hydroid.
They're hydras. Hydras are usually found in fresh water. You can see they'll somersault around to move.
That's cool.
They'll form colonies and they'll bud off new hydras. They also have a form of sexual reproduction. They're polyp form. And they're class Hydrazoa. And their tentacles sting just like jellyfish and sea anemones.
Have you ever gotten a really bad jellyfish thing?
Yeah, I've gotten one. One time I got stung. It was,
By what?
I got one.
Yeah,
I feel like my whole voice before and I can't play.
oh, I don't know. It just I was in the ocean and it, and I was screaming.
How big was it?
I don't know. I was on a raft though. My arms were hanging down and it just.
Look, it wasn't a shark.
No, it was jellyfish.
No, I'm saying.
Go back to that one picture of jellyfish.
Why do you have everything else?
Is that
Normally the tentacles hang off the edge of this. I'm not sure what those are. Yeah. That's where it's mounted. I don't know.
me and Heather, I was surfing, and I was on the boat, I was down near the shore. I looked down, and oh, look at that.
Ew, put it away.
Did you stay on the board?
Yeah, no, I was surfing at the top of this spot.
That's a month?
I was surfing with her, and I saw those jellyfish, and I'm like,
Yes.
maybe we should get out of here. Good idea. I have a long way to shore.
Will us out.